Welcome back. My special guest today is Kaila Yu, author of Fetishized, A Reckoning with Yellow Fever, Feminism, and Beauty. In her book, Kaila uses her personal journey through the entertainment industry to explore and critique the historical fetishization of Asian women. And I'm going to admit right here now that at first I was a little bit scared of this topic. It's not a topic that I know much about, and it's definitely outside my comfort zone, especially since the majority of Asia-file offenders seem to be white men in their 50s. And that is a group I don't want to be associated with. The Asia-Files group. I don't want to be associated. I can't do anything about being 50 and white. I can't change that, but I want to be a better person. We are often scared, I know I am, by what we don't understand. And so naturally, we do our best to avoid it. It's easier to avoid the subject that brings us discomfort than to face it and understand it. Why is that? But that's the easy way out. When we face what we fear, we usually realize we had nothing to be afraid of at all, and we are better off for having faced it. Kaila is so brave and honest in her memoir. I only hope to harness her powerful voice appropriately in the retelling of her story here. I am following Kaila's brave footsteps, and I'm overcoming my fears. Kaila's memoir highlights the journey from silence to healing. She writes about how she initially disassociated from traumatic events to survive. But the real healing began when she found the strength to confront those events in her life that had caused her the trauma and to speak out about them. At the heart of the book is a human story. It's filled with the universal desires that we all share. You know, we all seek love, approval, and acceptance. And like it or not, the circumstances we experience when we go out into the world and those people that we encounter shape our self-worth, sometimes leading to self-loathing. We start out pure. We add stains as life gets a hold of us. In the book, Kaila skillfully weaves together perceived myths and the objectification of Asian women throughout history, intertwined with her fascinating personal journey as she struggles with society's definition of love and beauty. She intertwines these narratives with her own desire for approval as she navigates the complexities of love and being loved, a successful modeling career, drug addiction, and the founding of the band Nylon Pink. After reading Kaila's book, I came away with empathy and understanding on a topic I had initially been fearful of. I learned a lot. And after turning the last page, I had the thought, I am better today than I was yesterday. I end each show with a simple request of all of you. Listen more and evolve. And today, I will listen and I will evolve. It is such an honor to welcome Kaila here today to share her story with us. Welcome to the Jeremiah Show, Kaila.
Oh, that made me kind of teary-eyed. I like that. Thanks so much for that introduction. Yeah.
I mean, your book affected me, and like I said, I read every single page and took a lot of notes. I thought I'd start here kind of just on the surface, if you don't mind, just for those who may not know. Can you define an Asia file?
Yeah, there's actually an Urban Dictionary definition of it. I don't have it memorized though. But basically it's someone in
I've
my
got it if you
definition
want me to read it.
in my definition of Asian fetish, I think it's like a guy who's like obsessed with Asian women. Any Asian woman matters. It doesn't matter. He can't tell like a good looking one from an attractive one because frankly, it doesn't matter. And he treats the women as disposable, interchangeable, and just as sex objects.
Mhm. And what are some of the misconceptions out there that men have of Asian women, or that the world has of Asian women, that just aren't accurate?
Yeah, I think the big overarching one is that we're submissive, which a lot of men who date Asian women find out quickly that they are very much not so most of the time. But there's like this ideology of a submissive yet hypersexual woman. So she's like real, obedient. And then in bed, she does, well, I guess she's obedient. She does whatever you want. So that's like the major one. Yeah, it's just a basic submissiveness. So that includes like, oh, she's family oriented. She'll sacrifice everything for your good.
I like that once they date an Asian woman, they find out that that's not true, that she's not, they're not some
Yeah.
very powerful. I like that's what they get. What's the emotional cost for I guess Asian females of yellow fever? What's that emotional cost that of that?
I think it's just exhausting to have to like feel that all day because a lot of the people who say fetishy comments to you think it's a compliment. Like they genuinely think it's a compliment. So like girls will get comments like, "Oh, I've never had an Asian girl before." And you're like, okay. Um, or like having to, when you're dating, you have to ask, like, was your ex-girlfriend Asian? Was your ex-girlfriend before that Asian? Like all this extra kind of gymnastics that we have to do out in the world. And what I didn't realize growing up is that it sometimes leads to violence because treating someone as an object or viewing them as an object makes them easy to do whatever you want with them.
Just makes it them almost disposable in their mind.
Yeah.
How much I really loved how you weaved in history, where this started with colonialism, and it wasn't a history lesson. It was just your story weaved with the history and gave a background and gave me a fuller understanding of where things maybe had started and how these misconceptions snowballed and grew. How much of the objectification, I'm having trouble with that word today, how much of the objectification of Asian women comes from the adoration of men, and how much it is baked in with like the Asian culture, or because you talked about Confucianism.
Well, so here's the weird part. Okay, so the submissiveness is that's real, right? In Asia, Asian women have traditionally, under Confucianism and other ideologies, been thought as actually inferior to men. So that is the case, but they're not hypersexual. They're just probably normal sexual, or it's not even brought up. But for some reason, when it comes to the Western side, it becomes submissive and hypersexual, which where it's become problematic because I don't, it's not realistic.
And can you describe what Confucianism is or was?
Yeah, I mean, there's a basic precept of it, which is that a woman has like three leaders or kings, I forgot the word, but a woman serves
Obedience,
three. Hmm? Um,
the
so
three
a woman,
obediences, maybe?
yes, 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 the three
Okay.
obediences. So that's her father, and then her husband, and then her son. So she's like inferior to her son also.
And then the four virtues laid out like a code of conduct, you say, and the seven grounds were the basis for divorce, including not bearing a son
Or getting sick.
or talking too much.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is terrible. Uh,
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I can't believe I can't believe I can't believe it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you, in a way, not to make light of anything else, but come a long way, I think. Not
Yeah.
to diminish all the things that have come before at all, but um, are you grateful for that? The voices like yours are inspiring change and, you know, casting light on the shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've made so much progress. And also, I always say I would never want to live in East Asia or Asia because I feel like it's still way more patriarchal than here. My book is a criticism on more Western culture because I live here, but I am very grateful to be American and live here. Like
Mhm.
I never forget that.
What was the inspiration for you to write the book?
Yeah, it was very accidental. I never had any intention of writing a memoir, much less on this topic. But during the pandemic, all of a sudden there was like all this Asian hate out of nowhere because of our
Mhm.
president saying it was a China flu or whatever. And then we started seeing attacks on the street of like senior citizens, little senior Asian senior citizens walking and getting like brutally beat up. And
Yeah.
then lots of instances of like videos of people just being told go back home and they're like, well, I was born here, but okay. Um, and so I'm a writer, so I started writing about that topic because it was just all we were talking about in the Asian American community. And then about a year later, the Atlanta spa shootings happened. And that's when a sex addicted shooter went into three massage parlors, I believe, and shot eight people dead. And then six of them were Asian women. And then the worst, I mean, that was terrible. But on top of that, that was bad was that the media said it was not racially or sexually motivated. And then the Asian community knew it was, like we just knew from the facts that were shown. So that was kind of the ultimate inspiration for the book.
You were, and you, by the way, you pay tribute and, you know, remember these names, don't forget these names, and you pay tribute to those people that were killed in the spa, which I thought was beautiful. It feels like what I read about you is that you were very well read as a teenager. You cite many stories and books that had an impact on your thought process back then. And if you had your book now at your age, if someone had handed you your book, would it have changed how you felt and saw yourself at all?
I think I'd like to say it would have. Um, by itself in a silo, perhaps not, because then I would still be looking on TV and seeing zero representation and zero pathway to, getting the self-love that I was so lacking. Um, but I think if I had this book and things were more like today, where there's so much Asian representation that I can't even believe it because I had none, then I think it would have made a difference for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so subjective to your environment, and what you see as a kid is different. You know, I can't imagine what kids today, teenagers today, with looking at TikTok, what that does to their perception of themselves or their, their how they view themselves compared to others.
Yeah, I think studies have come out, at least for Instagram, that it's like really affecting little girls' self-esteem for sure. I'm sure if they didn't study on men too or guys.
Uh, I want to read from your book, if you don't mind, here
Yeah,
a
sure.
passage about your father. You said, "My father was a good and a solid man who worked tirelessly to provide food, shelter, and structure, but I could never find his eyes on me. Like me, my father was an introvert, but his silence suffocated me, a black hole drowning all my achievements. I wanted to be like the Velveteen Rabbit, transformed from a stuffed toy into something tangible, not through achievement, but through love. And the tail, the rabbit is adored until his whiskers fall off. His pink lining turns gray and he loses shape. But love keeps him perfect. I envied that kind of fondness that saw through imperfection. But I kept performing perfect grades, perfect piano pieces, perfect silence, waiting for my dad to acknowledge me. There were painful memories of feeling unloved and unwanted for you. Do you trace those feelings back to your father and his seemingly lack of affection? He loved you, but for you, it felt like a lack of affection towards you. Do you feel like a lot started there with the way you perceived yourself?
Well, it's a funny thing because I write a chapter about my dad. I don't include my mom, but it's equally my mom, right? My
Mhm.
mom did interact with me, but she was the typical tiger mom who's very critical and very, they never compliment you and they never tell you they love you. And as an adult now, I could understand they did love me unconditionally, maybe even more than that, and did sacrifice everything for us. But as a little kid, when you're watching the Brady Bunch and you're hearing these I love yous and hugs and seeing this with your friends, that's what's going to resonate more than the logical part. So yeah, I do think I was probably born out of the womb kind of insecure, but that definitely didn't help.
And then you go on to say, as I navigated this humbling invisibility as a little girl, I believed that love, or at least attention, was only bestowed on the beautiful. If I couldn't dazzle, I would remain insignificant and continue to slip through life unnoticed. Was that a time in your life that was almost an awakening for you? You said, I know what I need to do. I need to be beautiful. I need to be loved. And why did you believe that you were unlovable?
I don't think it was a conscious decision. I think all of these, when I go back and look back, I'm like making sense of them, but I just see the different things I did. Like I gravitated to beautiful girlfriends and tried to be like them. And I would found this, I idolized like Victoria's Secret models and Sports Illustrated models. So yeah, I didn't like understand it so logically. But yeah, I just knew I was like very felt like kind of empty, and I didn't know why. I didn't know if it was supposed to be different, and I was just always searching for something to validate me.
Did you have anybody to talk to? Because those are such strong feelings. And you really, it's hard to put those feelings into words, isn't it? Especially at that age.
I didn't. I mean, I had friends and stuff, but it was like we weren't talking about this,
I
you
know
know
what you're
what I
talking
mean?
about.
Yeah,
But they
therapy
were probably all
wasn't.
experiencing the same things in a way, in their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in a way so much better for kids now because they do have TikTok. I mean, I didn't even have the internet back then, that didn't come until high school, I believe.
Yeah, you described signing in on AOL and you described it so well I could hear the pings and all the sounds. I
Yeah,
remember
those are
that 2.5
haunting.
minutes. It's like 2.5 minutes to get online and then there was nothing there.
Yeah.
It was like, what's the big deal? Um, Tell me about a little caterpillar named Furry.
Yeah.
A sweet story.
Yeah, I loved little creatures and animals. And yeah, I just like there's all these little black furry caterpillars that would be on these bushes outside my house. And I loved caterpillars because it's just like the magical transformation aspect of it. And they're very cute. And then one day there was just this golden one out of nowhere. And so I took it. And it makes me so sad to look back on that today because it's like it's a similar ideology of like the Asian file, like something's
Mhm.
attractive, I take it, with no like concern for its desires or autonomies. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put it in this box and like wait for it to turn to a butterfly. But he doesn't want to take it out of this beautiful garden and put in a box. Yeah.
Yeah, basically like confinement, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
Put it in prison. Uh, and through high school, there's a few stories you tell about wanting to be loved, going to the prom, over the guy that you had the crush on, overhear him saying something about you that wasn't flattering. You had a crush on him, a crush on a kid in the high school. I mean, that brings back memories of that time and what a horrible time high school
Oh,
was.
never want to go
Never
back
want to go
there.
back.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And then you write ending relationships. I think this is more in college. You're a little bit older. Was a defensive coping mechanism. I really related to this for my abandonment issues. Instead of dealing with conflict, I'd leave before my boyfriends had the chance to dump me. And it also doubled as a test and an opportunity for them to prove their love by chasing and begging for me back. I related with that one. I think self-sabotage. I've done that myself a few times, and leave them before they can have a chance to leave you. My question is, do you think you've ever been in love, or have you ever been in love?
Yeah, definitely. At least twice for sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, definitely. Love is
Good.
the best feeling, I think, for sure.
Why did you change your name?
Well, there was no question that I was going to use my real name because I wanted to pursue pinup modeling. So, like,
Mhm.
no way I could use my real name because I was hiding it from
But
my
you had,
parents, first of all. But second of all, Elaine Yang, my legal name, is just not very sexy or cute. So, yeah, there was never any question of it.
I love you say I smiled at my reflection in the mirror. Growing up, I had been Elaine. Elaine was the introvert, the nerd, the total dog. Kyla would step in stilettos and kick Elaine to the curb. Kyla would gleam with confidence. She was liquid gold.
Man,
Uh,
that makeup does wonders.
well, you also described your teenage years. A lot of those years, you had these idols like Sung Hee and others, and I remember all of those '80s pinup models, '80s and '90s, and those were your idols as well. You wanted to be a pinup model, like you just said. What was your ideal image of beauty? Was it those models, or did you have your own ideal image that you wanted for yourself?
It really just became Sung-Hee Lee. Like I fixated her like probably a psychopath fan. Like I collected her anything that she came out with. I was a member of her website. I just like anything she had, I subscribed to it. And really who else was there for me to idolize that was Asian?
Mhm.
The only other person at the time was like Connie Chung, who wasn't like what a little girl's
She was
necessarily looking to be.
reading the news, right?
Yeah. I was looking for the kind of like Britney Spears, like what like teenager girls are looking for.
Mhm.
And I was seeing like watching Beverly Hills 90210 and I liked Jenny Garth, but I never thought I could be her.
Yeah, you talked about America. The media at that time was those blonde hair and blue eyes were the ultimate beauty standard at that
Mhm.
time. And I remember that time. I think your that assessment's right. And but when you started to gain fame as a model, did your perception of yourself change at all, or did you finally feel beautiful when you looked in the mirror?
In a sense, yes, but I was never because so I joined this world of like pinup models, and I'm definitely not the prettiest one. I think I'm the most hardest working. So then there's this whole, okay, I'm in this group that I dreamed of being in, but now I'm totally always feeling insecure because I know these girls are far more beautiful than I am. So it was never completely feeling stable.
At that time, were you aware or conscious of Asian fetish culture in our culture?
Yeah, definitely when I started pinup modeling, because then they were contacting me and saying the things. It's funny because I don't think I even really encountered the Asian fetish thing in high school at all. And then in college, I was hanging around with Asians, so I didn't really encounter it. So it was definitely during the pinup modeling phase that it was amplified. And just the comments people would say, the common thing was like, oh my God, you're so much better than white women in general because they like they they want so much and they talk back and they, like basically they want to be equals and you guys don't. So like we hate those women who want to be equals.
I think that's kind of true, that stereotype. Talk back.
Well, yeah, the trad wife is coming back in style, right? So
Yeah.
there is definitely, I think, on the conservative party, like still a desire for that kind of female.
Did it bother you at that time? You stand against it now, but back then, was it anything that bothered you or you felt that you had to speak out against?
I didn't feel I had to speak out against it, but like every Asian woman in the world, I think, I mean, in the States experienced it. And we all just thought it was creepy and annoying, and we'd like talk about it to each other. But I don't think anyone was like making a huge, stance about it or anything.
Mhm. How do you think we can do better as parents or friends or as a society to help girls who see the world around them and think the pursuit of beauty is the only path that they have to being loved? And do you think we've made any progress in that? Do you feel like you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think parents can do so much. And it's not all on the parents, obviously, but like I just read Gwyneth Paltrow's unauthorized biography by a very talented journalist. So she definitely did her research. And Gwyneth Paltrow's father loved her and he told her so and thought she was the greatest thing in the world. And like said, uh, you know, no matter what man you're with, I will always be there for you, basically. And Gwyneth Paltrow came out into the world and just was like, why don't I deserve this? I deserve this. I deserve this. And she just floated up to an Oscar. And then all the most desirable men in the world, Brad Pitt, Ben Affleck, or whoever it was at the time, fell at her feet. And she just felt she deserved it because her parents, taught her so. Not necessarily in a egotistical way, but she was filled with like self-confidence and self-love.
Yeah, I think that's true. I feel like I hear stories a lot where there is stories similar to yours where there's a feeling, whether it's true or not, maybe, but it's your perception that the parents are they're busy at work or they're busy with their careers or other things, and they feel like maybe they didn't have the attention that they wanted, and it always comes back to that. And then your example of Gwyneth Paltrow's father, giving her love and support. I think it really does make a difference. And parents, I'm not a parent, but I'm not going to give them advice, but I think there's a lot of truth in what you said. Um,
Yeah, and this counts like, peers and like other mentors and things.
just
So,
being there, right?
yeah.
Just listening and being there and having somebody to talk to as a parent. He said, before sobriety, I lived an unexamined life, never believing I would reach 40. In fact, hoping I didn't. That was sort of a sobering sentence and uh, stuck out at me. I'm glad you're here. Let me say that. I'm glad you're here. We're here to talk together. What was your mind like at that time? Were you just you were hopeless and felt that it was just all too much?
Yeah, I mean, you're just living for the next, just doing whatever. I mean, I was just doing whatever drug was offered me and just like trying to get through and like make it through. The drugs at the time were really helpful. They really, helped a lot of the feelings until it became a super, super damaging. But yeah, it was just kind of like a overarching, just like a low level of despair. I could describe it, where you're like kind of just surviving.
And with the benefit, I guess you've gained wisdom. There has been a benefit of all the turmoil, the trauma that you went through. You've gained wisdom and introspection. It feels like from your book that's very helpful as a reader to share. it resonates, and the reader is able to, I think, go through that with you, but also they gain from your wisdom, that introspection, they gain insight. Do you think it was all necessary, all that you went through to get to the point that you are right now and how you view yourself now? In other words, could you have reached your acceptance of yourself without going through all that pain?
Yeah, I'm sure I could have. I'm sure there was an easier path. And there's definitely stuff I would rather have not have went through. But I do think it gave me kind of a grit and I guess, some of the worst things that happened, I can hopefully speak out for other victims who don't want to speak out, frankly, and shouldn't have to. And then yeah, maybe it's making lemons into lemonade, but like I just hoping that I can not only process it for myself, but like, okay, so we have this saying in recovery called "you're as sick as your secrets." So anyone who's in recovery is really used to just telling their secrets out in a room full of people and just being comfortable with it. And not a lot of people, we're in a society who are pretty secretive and people just present their best selves forward. But I want to make it in an environment where it's more comfortable to tell your secrets because it's healing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what anybody thinks.
Have you forgiven yourself for anything that at one time you hated yourself for?
Mostly, but that is definitely a life's work. I'm still going to therapy. I'm still doing inner child work. But it's 90% more healed because I've done like a decades of work on it.
I'm so sorry to keep quoting you, but you're so quotable. You, one line I liked, that the upkeep was exhausting as it was diametrically opposed to my true self, which made me think, who is your true self, or who was your true self? Did you know that girl at that time in your life that you were trying to find, trying to hear?
I'm just a nerdy girl who wants to sit in her room with a cat and like read a book. Like that's like my true self. So that was definitely not what was manifesting during that period of time, right? So I do experience a lot more of that or allow myself that more now.
Good. It was, again, so many stories that are inspiring in here. I really think you're going to help a lot of people that maybe it just brings things to mind that you maybe haven't considered. So going through that, the writing of the book and putting it all out there, was that a release of some sort for you? And or were you scared at all, like I've put out too much? Or what are people going to think? Or was it really like, I'm sharing me and that's what I need to do?
Yeah, it's a whole mix of those things. I actually mostly wrote this book 2 years ago. The publishing process is just very slow. So when I wrote it, it was just like theoretical, like, oh yeah, I guess one day this is going to be published forever from now, because that's what 2 years feels like, right?
Like
Um,
putting out a movie or something, huh?
yeah. So when I wrote it pretty closely with my editor editing it, and she's also an Asian American woman. So having her feedback and her compassion as I wrote this was very, very healing. So that process was so healing to put it down on paper. But like, and I was totally fine with it until probably a month before it came out. Then I was like, oh, wait, it's like really real. People are going to be reading these very personal things about me. And then did have kind of anxiety for a month. And then now that it's out, the feedback has been like good, like people feel connected. So it feels good now. But yeah, I definitely had nerves about it.
Yeah, it's a great book though. How did you find well, I guess you were always loved music, but how did finding music help you during those times when you were transitioning from modeling and tired of that lifestyle, and then you formed Nylon Pink?
Oh, there's a fly on my face. Um, Yeah, music in itself, I think many people will agree is healing, right? Like a really good song can help you get through a breakup or like get you through a hard time. And I had always kind of wanted to pursue music, and I eventually put together this girl band, and we were like sisters. So we all had our drug abuse problems, but we still felt like this team, and we were working on this like shared goal. So it felt just like a little girl gang with the same goal. And that part I still miss, I don't miss being in a
Why didn't you
band.
quit?
Oh, I hate being in band. I like that camaraderie with the girls and traveling the world with like my sisters, I call them. But like I don't like to tour. I hate touring. And
You want to sit on your bed with a book in
yeah, yeah. And I always just wanted to perform like 1 to 3 songs, just go on there, like give this like blowout show, but I did not want to do a 60-minute set. To me, that's like torture.
I can imagine that the description of the hotel room with the cockroach and the sheets. I mean, night after night. I imagine it's got to be draining. In the book, you ask yourself, if I had paused for even a moment, could things have been different? Have you answered that question yet?
I don't know if they would have been that different, because I would have needed to sober up, I think, to be able to have this realization. And you're only ready to sober up when you're ready to. And I don't think during that band period, at least, I was ready.
Have you considered this that all these years later, you're a little bit like Furry the caterpillar that you found? I
Yeah.
mean, Furry was bruised, right? He was bruised and broken, but you were his second chance at a metamorphosis. You were a butterfly coming out of your cocoon. You're furry.
Furry is me. Okay,
Furry.
I hope I could do that poor little caterpillar justice, because I still feel bad about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That sounds like a really traumatic event. Poor caterpillar you loved.
Yeah, I really loved it. Yeah.
What do you hope that the readers are going to get from your story?
I think the overarching thing is that the Asian fetish isn't harmless. And that applies to the objectification of women in general,
Mhm.
which we still do very much as a society, right? Um, Yeah, the most common thing you hear when you like push back against like an Asian file trying to give you a compliment is like, "We like you. What's the problem?" And I hope like if one of them stumbles across a book and actually reads it, they can see that the history of it was built in blood, and much of it ends in blood. So, not in every situation, obviously, but in enough that it matters.
And so, how do you feel? This is my last question. Unfortunately, we got to go. We're out of time, but how do you feel today? When was the last time that you felt truly seen and heard for who you are? Do you feel that way today? Do you feel better
I
than
do.
you did?
And also I have like these friends. I'm like again in recovery, and we speak so like there's no filter. Like you could tell them, there's no like, hey, how are you doing? It's like, oh, this like fucking thing happened to me. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I could use profanity, but like you go deep really fast. So I'm just used to and I have a therapist. So I feel very seen amongst my own personal circle of friends and family. And then now I'm completely seen, right? With the book, it's very, very
Yes,
beyond seen.
it's all out there. Kyla, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really enjoyed the book and I want to recommend it to everybody out there. Kaila Yu is a freelance journalist and a cultural critic. She is the author of the recently released memoir, Fetishized, which explores themes of yellow fever, beauty standards, and Asian American identity. Before her writing career, She was a model and a lead singer for the rock band Nylon Pink. We've been playing Nylon Pink's music throughout the show today. And today, Kaila contributes to esteemed publications such as the New York Times, Rolling Stone, and Condé Nast Traveler. Additionally, she's a travel writer and a content creator. In a review in the New York Times, Jill Damitak praises Kaila Yu's book, describing it as unstinting and necessary read that holds up a jaundiced reflection of the West, its past and present. Go to KailaYu.com, KAILAYU.com, to keep up with all the great things that Kaila's working on and doing today. And Kaila, can we see you in person at the Famous Bar September 14th in Glendale?
Oh, that's been, oh,
Has it changed?
yeah. Pending more information.
Anymore?
I didn't realize it was still up there on my website.
Well,
Sorry.
are you doing any signings or anything that you can tell us about, or we just sign up for the newsletter and keep up?
Yes, I will have a new announcement, but in a week. Yeah.
All right, teasing us. I love it. So you can find Kaila's book on, as she says, at your local bookstore. Support them. But Penguin Random House is the publisher, and I'm putting a link in the copy on the podcast. So you can go directly there. Also find it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Congratulations on that. I know you're excited about that from reading your Instagram. Again, the book is Fetishized, A Reckoning with Yellow Fever, Feminism, and Beauty by author Kaila Yu. Thank you so much, Kaila.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
It's great speaking with you. Do you want to thank anybody or shout out to anybody? The last seconds?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have been possible with my amazing editor, Amy Lee, and my amazing agent, Amy Bishop Wysek. So thank you, ladies.
Perfect. Okay. Communicate, but listen more and evolve. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.